Hey guys, welcome to episode 3 of the More Than MS podcast, and this week is going to be surrounding mental health and MS. So let's just get into it now. I want to just disclaim that some things that I talk about, these are my views, this is my experience. So what I say may not be applicable to everybody else, but that's okay because we're all humans and we're all different. We are all different with different lived experiences, and I think that's what makes it really unique and really special. Whether that's MS or just who we are, just without MS. So we're going to be getting into that today. Now, mental health is a subject that I am really passionate about because way before I was diagnosed with MS, I was experiencing problems or issues with my mental health, and we're just going to get a little bit into that right now. So when I was a teenager, it's funny because I come across as a very, very happy, very bubbly person, which I am naturally, but growing up I was actually like behind closed doors. I don't know if people can relate, but who you sort of project yourself to be in the world can be completely different to who you are at home, and that's quite normal anyway. But I was quite an angry teenager. I don't know. I just felt I didn't understand my emotions. I'm very, very emotional, and I think when I hit that sort of puberty stage and I'm not a child anymore and I'm experiencing all these newfound emotions, I feel like I've really, really struggled with that. And obviously at this point MS was not in my life, but I was just angry. I would have like these outbursts where this wave of emotion just came over me, and obviously I had to take it out on my mum, my brother. But at school it was always, Danielle's so lovely, she's so smiley all the time, no problems with her. And my mum's there thinking, you better see her at home, completely different child. And it was hard because I think with growing up, I come from a single parent household. My brother was always kind of like the naughty kid in school as well as in home. So my mum sort of dealing with two children. We're only a year apart, so, and being a single parent, working full time, it was of course a struggle for her. And I I just all I remember is I would have these like outbursts, and it could be the most simplest thing. I'll be getting ready to go to school, something doesn't go right, massive outburst, like crying, screaming, shouting at everybody. And I think it got to the stage where I was like 15, 16, and my mum decided like she's not grown out of this. I think it started from like the age of 12, and it was just getting worse and worse and worse. And I wasn't always the nicest person when I was in like these crazy blow up moments. So my mum took me to the doctors and to see if I needed sort of extra help. So I went to the doctors, and of course I think because I was so young, they wanted to see what they could do first before exploring any options like anti-depressants or things like that. So I had counselling, and I'm a true believer that everybody needs therapy. I honestly think that. I think therapy is great. I still have it now. I've had it into my adult years, even though I've got a lot better like with handling this. But at the time, so when I was like 15, 16, they referred me to counselling, and I feel like this is a subject that I am so passionate on because first of all, there's not enough counsellors, there's not enough therapists, for people to easily access. So I was on a waiting list for ages. But then because it was like children's therapy, I just remember the therapist lady was just so. I mean, I can talk to anybody, and because I was so good, I discovered at an early age how to like mask my emotions. Like, great student, no one would ever think what I was sort of going through at home. And so as soon as I would step into that room having the counselling sessions, I would just talk. I could tell her anything. There was nothing I was holding back. And there was nothing really happening in my life that was making me this way. And that's why I didn't understand it, because I thought, what is actually happening? And talking to this counsellor, and she's getting me to talk through, oh, it's so typical childhood. Oh, what happened with, your dad and all this? And I thought, I can tell you, he's gone, he doesn't care. But I've had that since I was a child. So I've lived with these things, I've dealt with them. Maybe there's ways that it's kind of like unhidden sort of childhood trauma in a way. But I just felt at the time she was just getting me to talk about these things to try and understand or bring up negative things to work out why am I like this or like that. And I just did not find it beneficial. I left that room feeling even worse than when I walked in, because I can so easily talk. I could tell anyone anything that's happened in my life. But to me, it was like, what are we doing to fix this? You're just getting me to open up, and you're just going, okay, yeah, just writing down notes. But it wasn't helping me. And I said to my mum, this is not working for me. I'm just going in there telling her everything. She doesn't do anything about it. And so we said, well, it's not going to magically disappear. It's good to speak to people. I said, I could speak to someone on the street. I have no problems with talking. I don't need someone to talk to, because I talk to you. I talk to all my friends. I talk to everybody. So it was trial and error. Going seeing the counsellor, sort of doing everything I could to try and make myself feel better. But it was just odd, because I actually had nothing in my life that was making me feel, and I thought it was depression. That's what I thought it was, because first of all, I mean, I'm not at this age, I don't understand mental health really, and we're talking over 10 years ago, so I feel like it's only recently that mental health has really been sort of spoken about more so, and it wasn't really as much of a thing back then. And that's only 10 years ago. Like, we've made huge progression within, I would even say, the past 5 years or so. So I didn't understand anything. We tried counselling, and it'd been a few more years. I got to about 17, and it was just getting worse. Like, my thoughts that I was having when I was in these, I call them like blowout moments, because they would just happen so randomly. They were really disturbing thoughts that I was having, and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't study. I left sixth form because my mental health was so bad, and it got to the stage where I think I decided, let's try the antidepressants. Now, there is such stigma surrounding antidepressants, and I understand in some cases. I'm a very open person, and I get people's opinions of why they may be skeptical of it. However, and like I said at the start, I can only talk about my personal experience. They saved me. They honestly did. I went on to antidepressants when I was 17, and I was on them for a couple of years, and I noticed in myself that change. Like, I was still me, because the weird thing is, I still to this day don't fully know what's going on up there, because it wasn't depression, because I would have like my good days. It could be good weeks. Now depression is something where it's very prolonged, and it's more or less an every single day thing. Now mental health, I don't like to label anything, because it's not black and white. Our brains are not black and white. But I don't think it was depression. I still don't know. But I would be fine for ages, and then when these blowout moments happen, and you don't want to be near me. But when I started taking the antidepressants, I started realising that these times where I'd be good for a few days or a few weeks actually turned into a few months. And it was very rare. Things that would normally like trigger me and make me blow up, if I was faced with something that would trigger me, I'd think, I don't feel good right now. But I was managed to kind of co-regulate myself and say, Danielle, it's okay. Just take a deep breath. You're fine. And I was able to stop myself from having these intense, like, emotional blowouts. And the only thing that I could see that changed that I was going on the antidepressants. Now, when I was 19, so I started those at 17, but when I was 19, this is when I was diagnosed with MS, and at the same time, I was with an ex-boyfriend who didn't like that I was on antidepressants. He probably didn't like, he was, like I said at the start, there's such stigma surrounding antidepressants. Now, I'll never forget that when I was diagnosed with MS and I had this ex-boyfriend, I just think he just didn't like that I had all this stuff wrong, which is awful. Like, I can recognise now in people that, well, this is who I am. I accept myself now if I've got MS or if I'm on antidepressants. It doesn't make me any less. However, at this young age of sort of 19, I was feeling very insecure, thinking, what's wrong with me? Why is all this stuff? Why can't I just be normal? That's what I used to think. And I obviously wasn't with a very good person at the time, because he said, black and white, it was, I don't really want to be with you if you're on antidepressants. Like, I don't want a girlfriend like that. So I came off of them for him, which is interesting now. But I don't regret anything in my life. When I'm young and I don't understand things, But I did. I came off of them mainly for him. But then when I was diagnosed with MS, in my head I thought, well, I'm going to be on medication for that. I don't want to be on too many. I don't want to be like a pill popper. I don't want to be on too many pills. Like, I just want to kind of just, let's see how it goes. So I was off of them, the antidepressants, for 4 years. 4 years? I can't think. Something around that time. And then about 2 years ago, it was about this time 2 years ago, so obviously now it's November, it's getting dark, it's getting cold, and it's actually a very common thing. It's called seasonal, oh god, what's it called? But it's called SAD, SAD, seasonal depression in a sense, which is a very real thing. Us as humans, we love the lighter days, the sunshine. Now when it gets dark and cold and the days get shorter, naturally we do feel down, we feel low. So about 2 years ago, I started just getting in these really, really low moods again. And I used to think, oh no, it's just, everyone says seasonal depression, it's just because it's getting dark, which is a valid point to me. I did kind of think that. But time would go on and it was getting so bad that I would just be getting ready for work and just crying, similar to what I was like when I was 15, getting ready for school and just crying. And there was no reason, there was nothing particularly, obviously, apart from having MS and whatnot, but there was nothing directly happening in my life that was making me be this way or having this effect on me. It would just be random, and what frustrated me the most was I didn't understand why. I would rather there had been something that was going on so I could understand why I was so emotional, but there was nothing. It was just, maybe I had a really good day, I went to bed, woke up in the morning, going to work, and as I'm just getting ready, I get this, it's like a wave of like intense sadness, like my heart is being ripped out of my chest, like something awful's just happened to me, but nothing's happened. And it was so frustrating, and it was ruining my life basically, because I'd go I'd go anywhere, I'd go to work or I'd go out to see my friends, and all of a sudden I just break down. It's like I'm having panic attacks and I'm crying and it was just, I couldn't carry on like that again. And I remember I had one of my really bad days. I think in my head I was against, at the time, going back onto antidepressants, because I'll admit, I fell into that stigma myself, and I used to think, well, I wasn't them, but I've been off of them now for 2 years, or however long, I can't remember, a couple of years I was off them, and I thought, no, I'm not going back, I can do this myself, because I thought in my head, well, I've done it for the past 4 years, I've not been on them, and I've been fine, so I don't need to go on them, I don't need to. And I was very stuck in my head about it. And then on one of my really bad days, I went to work, and I just, again, it wasn't even a surprise to me anymore. It's like, when's the next panic attack going to happen? When am I going to burst into tears again? And it was just I can't stop explaining how frustrating it was because there was just no explanation. I didn't understand what was going on. And then I had an appointment with my neurologist, just sort of like a normal catch up I tend to have every 6 months to a year just to see how I'm getting on. And I was just dreading going. Because I just didn't want to talk. I was so antisocial, and I feel like where people know me to be so positive and bubbly, I've always felt like I had to keep up that mask of being that way. I didn't want to go, but I did because I have to, because I still try and care for my health, you know. And I remember going there into that room. Now, I've known my neurologist since I was about 19, and he knows a lot about me and me, him, and vice versa. I feel comfortable with him. But I just walked in and he asked me how I was, and I just burst into tears. I was really embarrassed because I hadn't seen him in ages, but I just could not stop myself. And I started laughing whilst I was crying. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I don't know why I'm crying. There's no, he's like, what's happened? What's going on? I said nothing. I said I'm really good. I'm really good. I'm crying, and he was like looking at me a bit concerned. And then I started laughing. I said, what's wrong with me? I said, I can't control my emotions. And he then said to me, he explained, listen, Danielle, he went, with MS as well. And I thought, not this again, please. Everything that happens, MS, always because of the MS. But actually, it really is. It really is. And he said, when you have MS and your brain is going through everything it goes through, obviously we all know that just being diagnosed with MS is a massive hit back on your mental health anyway, and you know, let alone living with it, dealing with it day to day. But he said your brain physically, it affects the control of your emotions, so it can actually stop this. So what's it called, serotonin is the happy hormone in your body. And for like a normal brain, the way it gets released is it just goes up through this wall, and then the particles spread out across your brain, and that's how you keep your normal happy levels. Whereas it's not everybody with MS, but this makes a lot of sense in my case. My brain, the way that it struggles to tell my body to do things anyway, it's happening for my emotions as well. So when I've had like my relapses where I've gone blind, where half my face went paralysed, that's easy to see that my brain's affecting because it's physical. Whereas within my own brain, where the hormones, where the serotonin comes through, that it just doesn't work normally. And it's a condition. It's not so much what's happened to me, and that's why I've never understood it, because like I said, there's nothing bad that's happening, but I'm feeling like something awful's just happened, and I just never understood. So when it was sort of explained to me that, you know, your brain just is not able to regulate itself because those signals are disrupted from having like the MS. So that sort of made sense to me, and he explained to me, look, I really, really think that you should go on antidepressants. And I went, no. No, I'm not. And he said, why? And I was so against it. He said, listen, Danielle, you have MS, right? A condition. I said, yeah. He goes, what do you do for it? I said, well, I have my treatment. He goes, exactly. If you broke your leg, what would you do? Go to hospital? You'd get a cast. You would do things physically for your health problems. Now, your brain is having a health problem and you're just going to let it be untreated. I said, yeah, but I don't want to go on to antidepressants, and because of this, because of that. He goes, you're just saying these things because of what you hear, what you believe. He said, he's like, I honestly just think you should try it. You should try going back on them. And he wrote me a prescription. Now, I walked out of that room and I held on to that prescription for about 2 months in my pocket. I kept it safe, but I was so against going on it. And then my mum, she kept saying to me, I really think you should as well, Danielle. I really think you should go on it. And it was just, the episodes were still carrying on, the panic attacks, the crying. It was really disrupting my life, and in the end I just thought, you know what, I don't have anything else to lose. I'm gonna try it. Now that's 2 years ago, and I have been on them since, and I do not have those episodes. And it is insane because it shows that it works for me. Now this is a very, I'm not saying this is going to be for everybody, and you're so entitled to your own opinions. However, what I've now looked at it like is, it's not so much about what's happening to me, it's what's happening in my brain. And as much as I could do anything, I could live the most happiest life, if my brain is not regulating properly, it needs help. Just like how I go and get my treatment for my MS, or I go and get antibiotics because I have a cold. I'm helping myself, I'm treating the issue. So why don't I treat the issue in my brain? And it's interesting because he did say you may be on them for your whole life. And in a way, all I can say is they have really helped me, and I have never been more myself. And it's because it's actually helping my brain regulate. It's helping it just be normal, you know? There's no normal brain, by the way. But that helps me. However, on top of that, I do try and do things that just make my life a bit happier in the everyday world. You know, I will make myself go on a little walk just to get the fresh air and cook good nourishing food, because I've noticed if I'm not doing even just the lightest exercise and I'm eating rubbish food, I feel like shit, basically. So on top of, let's park that conversation about sort of like the antidepressants. They helped me personally, but with everything else, with mental health, it's not as easy as people just say, just snap out of it. That annoys me so much, because sometimes there is no explanation. There just isn't. And the more that we can talk about this, the more that we can share our experiences. Like I said, what I'm saying here might not help everybody, but if there's anyone listening that they can relate, they don't understand why do they feel this way. Now, of course, we've all gone through things. My life is definitely not all rainbows and butterflies. I have been through a lot in my lifetime, stuff that would actually make sense for me to have mental health problems. However, my mindset, I've always felt like I am a really positive person, and no matter what life throws at me, I try to overcome that. And I don't just forget about it either. I sit there and I sit with my emotions, I sit with my feelings, I acknowledge them, because if you don't, they will just fester within you. If you just forget about things, trust me, they're not going to go away. They are not. All you're doing is putting a little plaster on an issue. That plaster will eventually peel off, and you will have to face that issue again and again and again until you just sit with it, you acknowledge it, you look after it, okay? We can't just put plasters on things. Sometimes you have to rip that off and you have to deal with the issue. And it can be hard. It's not easy, but trust me, when you get over those obstacles, whatever it is that you're facing, and you've accepted them, you sat with them, and you've worked on yourself to get to a better place, the reward for your life, how you feel, it will be so worth it. And that, I can't stress that enough, honestly. Life is just too short to not talk about how you feel. And I know it's hard. Some people are not natural sharers or talkers, and that's okay. You don't have to be, but if you've got at least one person in your life that you can speak with, and even if you physically I doubt that no one's got literally one person, but if you physically don't, therapy. And even therapy for those who you've got 100 people close in your life, therapy. Always therapy, but you have to find a good one. And that can be hard, because that one I had when I was like 15, no, she wasn't good. She would just, don't get the ones that just make you talk about things and then just have got nothing to say. But the therapist that I've had when I'm like an adult, we really delve deep and we look into things and then ways that I can manage stuff. So I was going through therapy at the same time that I then started my antidepressants 2 years ago. At the same time, which I think is great. Do that both, because I don't know if it's just me, but I just like to understand things. And I think that's what stresses me out, because I wasn't understanding why I was feeling this way. So by having the therapy and then on top of that, having these antidepressants, I was understanding my brain more. I was working out why this is. And a huge part of it, I think, is it's just, yeah, maybe it is my MS that stops those serotonin levels coming through. But also there's stuff that's happened in my life, in my childhood, that the therapist got me to work through as well. And we could work through that together. And that helped me massively, because there's something that my therapist said that sticks with me. And it was, for me, when I was having these like blow up moments, I realised it was when I was like getting ready to go somewhere. It was always getting ready. I don't know why. And when I was having these moments, I said to him, that's my trigger when I get ready, and it sounds so weird, but that's my trigger. And we went back and we were talking about sort of my childhood and whatnot, and I explained to him that, I love my mum, I love my family to pieces, but of course, like I mentioned at the start, mum being a single parent, whenever I just remember, and anyone who knows my mum has a little joke that she's late to everything, and I'll say that to her myself as well. But I think when we were kids and when we were younger, she would get really stressed out. Obviously, she had a lot going on herself. So I remember whenever we'd get ready to go somewhere, mum was always running late. Sam, my brother, he was just a bit of a naughty kid, and it was just chaos in our house whenever we were going out somewhere. And it would just turn into big arguments, and it was so stressful. Then we'd always run late, and then people were, oh, you're always late, but like we just had a massive argument, and it was a lot. So actually I worked out that's the trigger. That's where it comes from, because I have grown up and I'm used to chaos when I'm getting ready, or like feeling really rushed, feeling really stressed, and like now I hate being late to anything, and that makes sense because of that. And when I'm getting ready, and if I'm running late, because it was obviously with school and now it's with work, it's because I know I've got a set time to be somewhere, I'm rushing to get ready, and it just, without even knowing it, it just triggers my brain. That little girl that was feeling all stressed out when she was a kid, it's come through, which is crazy. So when I was talking to my therapist about this, he said to me, just try something. When you get triggered, when this happens next time you're getting ready, I want you to just try and take a deep breath and just picture that little girl in your head, and picture her there. She's getting stressed, you're getting ready. Picture you two together, but then just kind of look at her, maybe give her a hug, hold her hand and say, it's okay, we don't need to be stressed anymore. We don't need to. It's fine. We don't need to stress out. And just acknowledge her. That alone, visualization, important. And I started doing that. And then I always felt like I just wanted to care for her. I really pictured her in my mind, and I thought, I don't want to do that to her, actually. Yeah, we're running a bit late, but is the world going to end? No. Are we still going to make it there? Yeah. So what? It's not worth having one of these blowout moments where I'm like crying and then I'm extra late to work. Do you know what I mean? I learned to have compassion for myself, and also tell myself, it's not that deep. It's not. Like I said, life's so short. It doesn't need to be like that. And I really just started to train my brain to think in a different way. And the past few years, I've just really delved into trying to just positive thinking, talk positively to myself, and it makes such a difference. So I just But I could say anything to anyone, just open up, talk about mental health. I think you would be surprised at how many people can relate, extremely surprised. And they always say the happiest people are the ones that you don't realise are going through something. And it's very true. Of course, you can look out for the normal symptoms, or, you know, somebody seems really withdrawn in themselves, they're not really bothering with anything anymore. Yeah, those are, of course, things to look out for. But guess what? You can't always notice. You definitely can't. And you don't know what people are going through. So be kind. Be kind to yourself. Have compassion. If you're listening and you've got MS, you're going through so much already. Okay? And we didn't ask for this. Of course we didn't. But can we change it? No. So just be warm. Be kind, compassionate to you. Because trust me, you deserve it. You deserve so much more than you could ever imagine. And you just have to have that belief in yourself. So I hope I didn't go on too much or make you feel, you know, down. I'm trying to bring light to what mental health is. And, you know, I know so many people that also are experiencing similar things. But guess what? I only know that because of how open I am with my experiences. And it gives people a place to open up as well. So just, I'm not saying go around the streets shouting, oh, I'm going through this and that. No, I'm just saying use your judgments, okay? As humans, we have great intuitions and we need to delve into that further. So if you feel safe or you can pick up on someone, they might be struggling, just talk to them. That's all it is. I feel like humans are just so afraid to talk to each other now, whether it's this generation, I don't know, but we're just by talking with each other, sharing each other's knowledge, that's what we should be doing. We should be sharing what we've gone through to help one another. And yeah, that's what I have always tried to do with people, and I just try and share things. And a lot of that is why I'm doing the podcast. I'm sharing my life. This is really vulnerable for me. I don't know who listens to the podcast, and I'm sharing massive things about myself. But due to having my following on my MS page, I know that there are people out there who are in the same boat as me. And like I said at the very start, if I could even just help one person, that's enough for me. If I can just say anything that can relate to one person, that is enough. And yeah, so that's just a little bit on mental health. There's going to be more episodes coming up. It will also be some guest episodes. So like I said, it's not just going to be me talking. Even though I can talk, like, it's been like nearly 35 minutes. It's been my longest episode yet. Oh. But yeah, there's going to be some guest ones talking about mental health as well, and many other things. So hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope everyone has, you know, a nice cozy November. Remember to look after yourself. We talked about the seasonal depression. That is a real thing. So I love like warm lighting. Go for a nice little walk. You've got all the leaves that are falling down, and yeah, just be easy on yourself. Because you've got one life and you've got one body. Whether MS or not, we've got to care for it. So take care of each other, and I'll see you next week. Bye guys.